Welcome to Behind the Badge with your special guest, Lieutenant Williams, your news source for all things police in the city of Fond du Lac.
It's KFIZ Today, Behind the Badge, our weekly visit with the Fond du Lac Police Department. Lieutenant Ryan Williams back in studio. Of course, for those who maybe tuned in last week and said, where was Ryan? He's still with the department. We just kind of got a new little flow here now that we got Cami Vandermolen on, recruitment and retention specialist. You guys kind of ping-ponging back and forth.
Yeah, that was kind of cool. We got our report ladies in here. So
and the beauty for me is, this happens a lot of times when you get somebody who's never been on the radio before. They're just so nervous, right? They see all the equipment in here, and apparently
similar to me.
They think I'm very intimidating. I'm not. And so they were extremely nervous. By the end of it, they said, we want to do this again. They had so much fun, so we got them relaxed. It was, yeah, obviously they play a crucial role in what goes on at the department. And I think it's cool that we're highlighting some of the people behind the scenes, right, as opposed to just everybody who's out and about in the community. So it was neat to be able to you know, chat with them. And I know Tammy's got some more ideas on that front.
One of the cool in-house things that we're doing is, you know, it's always good to keep officers up to date on report writing. Like sometimes, you know, they call it drift, basically, like, you know what the standards are, and you know, you kind of like, after a while you forget to put maybe certain things in your report that are important for accreditation, stuff like that. So we always have to do these reminders. So I'm making a reminder video, and this is very near and dear to my heart because it's in the mindset of The Office, the show The Office. Sure. So I cut an Office like intro, but instead of like Sanford, it's Fond du Lac, and so it's in the works right now. It's dry material usually, but I try to add a little bit of levity to it. So I'm excited about it. It's in the works. Hopefully it turns out pretty good. So
I'm looking forward to seeing that.
That will not be for public consumption. That's in-house training. Yeah, I wish, like, you know, there's so much that happens in-house that the public doesn't get to see. But we do that just because, you know, there's stuff that, you know, we wouldn't want everybody to see. So
no, that makes sense. What people can see though is your new look, which you are sporting, which I didn't notice until you actually told me about it when you sat down. And
so yeah, the people can tune into YouTube and see. I actually went back to the old school. So if you saw me before, I was wearing the outer carrier. Outer carriers are kind of like the new trend in law enforcement, and there's nothing wrong with it. And our officers love wearing them because it supports the weight of your belts a little bit better. You're supposed to have less back issues and stuff like that. There's a lot of research done on it. But me, I have to face the facts. I'm in the office more than I want to be, you know, and I feel like the having the outer carrier not on and I have the vest underneath is a cleaner look for me personally. So I like that our department gives choice, right? Because what works for me is not work for the other one. We have a guy that just came from Green Bay, and he's got the duty belt and suspenders. So he's got like these invisible suspenders that help keep the weight off your back. Because officers can have lower back issues from carrying the weight of the belt. I mean, you have all these tools on you. They tend to weigh a lot, and sitting in a squad car is not a comfortable thing. And luckily for this studio, I'll say this, you have very cop-friendly chairs.
Do we?
Yeah, if there's no arms on the chairs, that's huge for cops. Like we do not do well with chairs, and if there are arms, then we usually take chunks of them out with our gear and stuff.
I could see that.
So very police friendly.
Good thing we don't. Now you brought up the gentleman from Green Bay, and I'm going to put you on the spot here. I hear he's trying to avoid coming on the radio. So
has he not been on the radio?
I don't think he has.
Max Swan would be his name.
I don't think he has, because a female friend of his who may work at We Empower was on recently, and she was telling me about him, and I said, wait a minute, I don't think we have pretty much every new, and then she said, well, yeah, he's told me that Lieutenant Williams is trying to get him on the radio, and he's trying to avoid it like the plague.
Well, now that you have reminded me, because we have been busy, right? Yeah. We have been busy, so that one might have slipped through the cracks. Okay. I know that friend that you're talking about. It was kind of cool. They did a show up with a couple of females that are in the police department, and of course I'm going to invite them in. And I mean, we are in a kind of cool situation where we have 20% female workforce, which people are like, well, that doesn't seem like a lot, but in law enforcement is actually a lot. Like it's up at the top of the state, so it's like us and Madison. Wow. So it was kind of cool. our department's a little bit of a mess right now because of all the construction, but they got to see like our crisis co-response unit. Officer Mathis, who's probably been on the radio a couple times, was there and got to give him a little spiel and stuff like that. So that was cool.
That's great. And then quickly before we get to today's topic, I don't think we touched on this last week when Cammie and the gals from the office were here, but Sturgeon Spectacular, everything go okay with that? Obviously, things moved from the park to everything being centrally located downtown.
Yeah, I think it did. I'm gonna guess. I'm gonna guess that the numbers were probably down overall because I don't think you had as many people coming for sturgeon spearing to like bring even more of that thing. I mean, it stinks. The ice conditions were horrible. I think most people stayed off the ice. It was kind of just a different thing. I bet you the sales of those portable ice shanties went up astronomically as people were using those instead of the heavy old shanties that they would use before. So yeah, it was kind of a bummer, but hopefully what that means is a really successful next year, and I'm glad that we have a regulated sturgeon spearing season, and that's why we have it, so that we can keep track of the numbers and we can hit those numbers and still have successful harvests every year.
Today's topic, though, is downtown parking.
Yeah, see, I was ready for the segue before when we were talking about like the seats. I was like parking, like I'm parking in this seat, but you know, that was great. So one thing that the downtown partnership, so like the collection of business owners plus the city of Fond du Lac has kind of told us to kind of re-emphasize is the enforcement of downtown parking. And what kind of happens with, you know, I'm in charge of our community service officers that issue a lot of our parking tickets. And what happens in the winter, because they write so many winter ordinance tickets, which will be done March 15th, by the way.
Coming up soon.
They write so many winter ordinance, sometimes they because they're writing so many of those, they don't write as many of the downtown tickets. So we are going to, and I want to announce this because we're not looking to generate revenue. We're looking for compliance, okay? And I think a lot of people just don't know what our parking ordinances and restrictions are. If you're like someone that regularly parks downtown in Fond du Lac, I would advise you to go to our website on parking, because it can be complicated, and I'll be honest, I'm still learning. And I've been in charge of the unit for 3 years, and this week I learned something that I did not know, and we'll get to that. But one thing I want to kind of start on is, and I brought paperwork, and I know I always think on radio when I'm reading from a sheet. Right. I had to turn up the lights in here just so we could see.
I had the lights off all the time. So.
Yeah. But for Main Street parking, on-street parking on Main Street, it's free, but there's a 2-hour limit for customers, for customers and clients only. Downtown employees, so if you work downtown, are encouraged to keep Main Street spaces open for customers. So that's a nice thing that we have, right? Like we have free parking, and we could go to a system where we have meters all the time, but it's limited to 2 hours. And unfortunately, I think that's when we're finding the most abuses of the system is people parking for over 2 hours. And it's very kind of, it's a lot of manpower to enforce, I'll say that, because not only do you have to have a vehicle to come and like chalk your tires, then you have to have your vehicle come in 2 hours later and write the tickets for them. But with that re-emphasis, you're going to start seeing that. So we got to be really strict if you're one of those people that
which might be me.
Which would be a violator of that. We are going to be looking for those violations. Another thing is the permit parking. So we have lots where people have to purchase permits, and we're going to be looking for those. Now, the permits are supposed to be displayed on the rearview mirror of your vehicle. We understand that sometimes they fall off. You know, life isn't perfect and things like that. But it's got to be in a place where it's displayed so that my CSOs can see it. So if it's in your center console, that's not going to work out so well, because part of that permit parking is to have it where we can see it. So we're going to be looking for those. One of the biggest things, points of emphasis that my CSOs actually, I'm not going to say they like to enforce, but they feel like it's kind of a big deal, is the abuse of loading zones. We have several loading zones in downtown area, and we have a lot of violations of that. And a lot of people are like, well, I don't want to like park because I'm just going to put in this loading zone because I'm only here temporary. And if that's it, they're good, right? But a lot of people are using those loading zones as more than temporary. Like maybe they had to move a box into an apartment or something like that. and then maybe they have lunch, and maybe they have stayed for supper or whatever. You're only allowed to be there for that temporary movement, and then you have to move to a more permanent spot if you're going to stay longer. So what will happen is my CSOs will sit on a vehicle. So usually people have their hazards on, which I do appreciate in the loading zone. And that is kind of like the international symbol for, I'm just going to be here for a little bit, right? Yeah. And but if they don't see that person come back to the car after a reasonable amount of time, then they're going to issue that ticket. So there's a lot of restrictions. There's different parking meters. We actually have a passport app that you can actually purchase parking for parking meters. Our CSOs are able to monitor that. So what we're looking for, and the downtown businesses want, the downtown businesses don't get any revenue generated from this. Like the revenue goes into like a general fund. They are looking so that they can have open spots for their customers, and that's the biggest thing. Like, so they want customers to have access to their stores, and if someone's has an abandoned vehicle or something like that sitting in front of their store for weeks on end, that's one less spot for a customer that makes it more inconvenient for that person to have access to their space. And our downtown has been amazing. Like they're still adding to it. There's been a lot of really cool businesses and stuff that have emerged, like classier places. Not saying the old places weren't, but you know, I know like one of my favorites lately, and I don't frequent that often. Very once in a while, I like that Craftworks place downtown.
Do you?
Yeah, they've got some like specialty drafts in there and stuff like that.
Guy?
Yeah, like that was that's a real nice. But places like that you know you usually would see those in your Appletons and your Oshkoshes. And for a long time, Fond du Lac didn't have those options, and now we do downtown. So we want to make sure that we're utilizing this downtown, that it doesn't look like you know, like an abandoned scrapyard down there. So we are going to be enforcing those parking restrictions. So be mindful of that, and the best way to do that is to look at what those are. Like if you're going to be regularly parking downtown, then look online and find out the parking restrictions. I could read these all to you, but we'd all fall asleep by the end. So I've got one. I teased it, so I have to say it.
Okay.
There's one thing I did not know, and this has to do with when you park for like a 2-hour parking area. There's different zones, and just because you move, like let's say you're parked and you're going to be there for more than 2 hours, you go out right at that 2-hour mark, and you move over like one stall, you're technically still in violation. You have to actually move to a different zone after 2 hours. I'm just going to read the ordinance. I know ordinances are dry, but it says park in any one space or in any combination of spaces for more than 2 hours during the times prohibited in the schedule. So it basically says that you, in that particular zone, if you want the zones, once again, you can go online. Even if you move that spot, you could still get ticketed. So that will be a point of emphasis as well with all the other things.
Know before you go. Right?
Know before you go. It's like that's a saying or something.
It is, right? There
yeah.
You go. Awesome.
One last thing. We'll talk about maybe some other shows, but some really cool thing at the police department. Our chief has got us a bunch of new weight equipment. Like we always had a great weight room, but now we have like these huge like racking systems and like a pec deck, and like our weight room is like legit, like totally legit. And I'm gonna be shooting some promos and stuff for like recruiting in the future, and so you guys will be able to check that out. Those will be open for the public, those videos, but it's awesome. Like, and it's kind of reinvigorated me to get working out even more lately. So stay tuned for that, and maybe we'll talk about that in the future.
You're gonna be all showing up jacked in here, aren't you?
Yeah. You mean
that's
I'm
why
not?
you switched the outfit.
Yeah. Don't want to show up too much.
Awesome. All right, Lieutenant Ryan Williams, find the badge. KFIZ today.